closer look at our market, it seems like yesterday's gains was just a blip. I mean, sentiment doesn't seem to have changed when it comes to investors. They still seem to be trading cautiously. What is your take on this?
Okay, hi. We've seen the trend continue the same way for the past 1-2 weeks. We've seen cautious buying in the market. We've seen the buyers have not been very aggressive. They've been kind of cautious in buying stocks. And yesterday was just a bit different. We saw Union Bank trade the most in the market yesterday because of the huge transaction that went to Union Bank. The trend continued again today. It was a bit of cautious buying. If you look at the value that traded today, was just a bit over a billion naira, and the market was actually down. All the sector lost except the oil and gas sector, which gained.
Now, before we go to the oil and gas sector and find out why exactly that index did better than all the others, let's talk about Union Bank. Now, actually, we heard it dominated both value and volumes yesterday. We thought investors were watching for that stock, but it turns out it was actually just one investor, actually AMCON, transferring shares to co-investor Union Global Partners. Can you tell us a bit more about what's happening with this?
Yes, like you said, Total was the one that dominated the oil and gas sector, which was why the oil and gas sector closed up today. And then the Union Bank that traded yesterday, the transaction was done by AMCON, like you said. It traded about 14 billion. 14 billion shares was sold to Union Global Partners, which is the core investor of a Union Bank, and because of the confidence they have in the bank, they feel that they increased their stake in Union Bank by buying about 4 billion, which amounted to about 15 billion naira worth of shares yesterday.
Now, you did say that Total was one of the reasons that we saw the oil and gas index performing quite well, because we know Owando has been a stock that hasn't performed so well, one of the major stocks on the oil and gas index.
Yeah.
But I'd like to shift to Axis Bank. Let's talk about Axis Bank, because we're seeing some major news when it comes to that bank. Last week we saw Fitch upgrade its debt on the back, of course, of an increase in the bank's systemic importance after its acquisition of Intercontinental Bank. Now, analysts are actually rating this stock a buy, and they're saying it's moving closer to joining some of the top-tier banks. How are investors responding to this news? How is Axis Bank, its stock, actually performing?
Okay, apart from Fitch improving the rating on Access, we also saw S&P and Augusto also give a better rating to Access today, and we think that Access, because consolidation with Intercontinental Bank has really helped them, and then with the large client base, improved branch network, we think the low cost of there will be low cost of funding, their cost of deposit will also reduce, and then this will help the bank to compete with the likes of GT and First Bank or Zenith in the long run. So we've seen interest in the bank in the last few days, and there's been renewed interest in picking up the stocks.
Now, I'd like to ask about your opinion on this. I mean, some analysts are saying Fitch upgrading this bank and saying that it's on the back of an increase in the bank's systemic importance. Other banks are also systemically important. So give me your take on the upgrading of this stock, of course, and of course the banking sector's overall performance. What are we going to see in some other banking stocks? As analysts are saying that some of these banks are also going to be systemically important. What is your take on this? I hope that was clear for me.
Yeah. We saw the rating agencies. It wasn't only Access Bank that was rated. We saw Zenith Bank, Zenith, UBA, First Bank and GTB too. They were also rated, and they were rated as stable. And generally, the tier 1 banks actually been doing very well. They have good fundamentals, and then recommendations on them are still very bullish, especially First Bank and GTB. So generally, the banking sectors have been doing very well. There are potentials in there for long-term investors, and we think on the long run, the banking sector is actually doing very well.
Now, Bunmi, what's your overall outlook for the market, especially tomorrow? We know Q2 is around the corner. Some people think that this is the time that we should see the market sort of rallying. What is your outlook for the market?
Okay, based on what we saw in the first quarter of this year, based on the results that were churned out, we expect that the results for the second quarter won't be bad as well, and we expect that this will actually be positive for the market, and we think the market should do better in the second quarter of the year.